Welcome to Second City Sports on our new home, live, local, and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakina McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, as you can see right there at the bottom, or at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all the other social media places. Simply as Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, as Sports Zone Chicago. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and right here on YouTube. You also follow our audio version of our podcast, Second City Sports at War Media. Once again, that WAR Media. You can follow them on all social media platforms, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that WAR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Lakina, I know you can also give us your thoughts on any of the topics that we discussed on today's show by simply going to our Facebook page, or are you watching us here on YouTube only on Sports Zone Chicago? Make sure you go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll post your comments right there. Our technical producer, Ivan Vargas, will be along with us in just a moment. He'll post your comments up on screen. Wherever topics we discuss, whether you agree or disagree, just be respectful, and we'll post your comments on the air. Lakina, before we get started, I know we have a lot of new listeners that are listening to us on Sports Town. Not Sports Town. I just said it. Sports Zone Chicago. Shout out to Sports Town Chicago, part of the ICB network. But right here on Sports Zone Chicago, and I know I always give you the respect that you deserve. This is your show, and we have a lot of new listeners. Many of them don't know how we got started. So since you're the creator of the show, you're the first lady and only lady of this show, please give our audience did this show get started?
Well, basically, when I was at Illinois Media School in the downtown Chicago campus, I had a chance to, of course, while there, you get a chance to do your own various, radio shows and podcasts. So started doing that right before I graduated from there. Did it for a few years, and then the pandemic hit. Like with everything else, things were shut down. So we found a kind of a new way of doing it. We were doing it for about a little over a year on weareregalradio.com. Shout out to Kyle and the guys for giving us this opportunity to do that. And now we're doing this. I mean, we've been doing it for, I know, Sid, you joined me about 3 years ago, or maybe a little over 3 years ago now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, yes. And we talk, sports both locally and nationally. We do a little bit of everything. We talk a little bit of, just about every sport you can think of, just about, not all of it. But, we just want to give you guys a chance to kind of give us a new sort of way of, kind of do what we've been doing podcasts for. Now we're doing it live. We're doing it live now. So that's how we kind of started doing this.
LIVE, live entertainment. I'll give you guys a little bit of my background. Of course, I graduated for the Illinois Media Schools, ICB back then, back in 2002. And of course, I worked at a religious station for a couple of years. And of course, I worked at Sporting News Radio, which is based in Northbrook, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. I did that for about a year, and of course had a little break there for a while. Then of course got back into it with We Are Regal Radio, of course with the Dean Davis Show. Shout out to Ken and DeMons. That was a great show. That was the longest show running on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com, next to yours, Lakina, for many years in that downtown Chicago campus. Of course, I worked with a couple of afternoon shows after that with Jason Kessner and Charles Prodigy, Richie, Corey, Ralph Hill, and all those guys. So I'm sorry, I said I was going to name anybody, because if I did, I would forget people. But, shout out to Kyle Means, everybody at War Media. We still rock with them. You're going to hear the audio version of our shows going forward from them. So we still have a great relationship. Of course, working with Dean Davis. I'm still on the flip. I haven't been on there the last couple of episodes, but you can hear me on there with Ken Davis, Jason Kessner, Demond Spruill, and crew on Flipping Friends. Of course, now Davis has that Davis show now, no longer the Dean Davis Show. So this is how I ended here. I joined you about 3 years ago, and having the time of my life. Not saying that I didn't on the Dean Davis Show. We all did. We broke ground, and now look where we are. Look what Ken is doing. He's still guest hosting right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Good. I got to get that out of my mind. Sports Zone Chicago on the Sean and Maya Show. Of course, he's a new host of the NBC Sports Chicago podcast, under center. That's a Chicago Bears podcast. So he's doing big things. So We trying to create a lane for others to follow, and that's we hope that we could do that for any future broadcasters. And the only thing that I can tell you guys is whatever topics we cover, we're going to give you our opinions and give you our thoughts. We'll give you the facts, and we're just going to be ourselves. We're going to be serious at times. We're going to just have fun. The bottom line is we're just going to have fun. This is sports. We're not solving the world's issues. Yes, we'll probably get touchy at times, but we're not going to cross the line. So you guys just listen to us. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of breaking news, I'm sure, during this time slot. And so, and we're going to talk some things, non-political, of course, but we're going to talk some things outside of sports, human interest stories, sports, music, and we're just going to have fun. So thank you guys for joining us here again as you're listening to Second City Sports on our new home or Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Cindy Brown along with Lakina McGee. We'd like to also thank everybody at Sports Zone Chicago, Maya Kai and Sean Sierra, for giving us this opportunity. So hopefully we can repay you guys back by doing a great job. And you supporters and listeners and viewers out there, thank you very much for your support already. And let's see what happens. I'm ready for this new journey, Lakina. Let's get it started by discussing last night's game. We're not recorded, so we can discuss things live, Lakina. I'm happy to do that. So let's get started with some baseball. As we start local, of course, the Chicago White Sox and the New York Yankees squared off in the state of Iowa last night in the inaugural Field of Dreams game. The White Sox defeated the New York Yankees by the score of 9-8. Tim Anderson, a.k.a. Mr. Swag, lifted the Sox from a one-run deficit to give the Sox the victory with a 2-run home run. First pitch off of closer Zach Britton. Lakina, before we break down let's break down the game first, and that has a couple other follow-up questions after this. But let's break down the game. Lance Lynn, he started on last-minute notice. Of course, it was supposed to be Carlos Rodon, but Carlos Rodon has a shoulder inflammation or fatigue, I should say. We'll see what happens this time next week, if he's off the injured list or not. But I thought Lance Lynn did okay. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He did okay for an emergency start. Michael Kopech was okay. Liam Hendricks was the sore spot. Gave up those 4 runs in the ninth inning. Of course, Aaron Judge hit a 2-out, 2-run home run. Of course, Giancarlo Stanton, that ball is still going into the cornfield as the Yankees took the lead at the time. But, of course, the White Sox never quit, and they came away with a 9-8 victory.
Yeah, I think just let's start with like the beginning of the game for a second, all the pregame pageantry and all of that. Fox did a really good job, with the production and everything with the game. You had you had Frank Thomas, who of course Hall of Famer and of course longtime White Sox. He actually was playing the James Earl Jones role in the Field of Dreams movie. Yeah, I know, right? But then like the cool thing about it is that you had A-Rod and Big Papi David Ortiz kind of wanting to play catch. A-Rod wanted to play catch. Hopefully we can get the clip up for you guys to see if you didn't watch it. But basically, Papi told him, "Look, I'm not playing with you. You're a Yankee. I'm a Red Sox. I don't want to play with you. Get out of here." But also too, the beautiful entrance, that it was a little over 4 minutes, but you had Kevin Costner coming in, reenacting that last scene from Field of Dreams where he built the field, and then like all the players, his dad and all the players come in. Unlike the movie, you had like living, breathing players, but still, it was a really nice moment. Now, as far as the game, look, I think this is a game that I think that a lot of, if you're a baseball fan, even if you're not a baseball fan, this is something that, this was a really great moment. If you didn't watch the movie, Field of Dreams, you should. I mean, you had a little bit of everything. You had, the White Sox, had that great start, and then the Yankees came back, and then the Sox came back again. It was sort of like back and forth. You thought that maybe, that the Sox could perhaps maybe finish it off, but then, Hendricks gave up, the tying run, and but then, Tim Anderson came back with that, very first pitch, and then just, ended that right there. But just a very exciting game, and also too with the weekend, stretching out. I mean, this is, they're off today because it's a travel day, so they're coming back here to Chicago to play the rest of the weekend series. But I think if you're the White Sox, this is what you wanted because you had that tough, mini 2-game sweep against Minnesota, so you needed this to sort of like get back into sort of the, get the get the confidence back. It's good for everything else. So it's it was a great game all around, and hopefully it won't match the pageantry from this year. But I know the Cardinals and the Cubs, they're going to be playing in next year's game. But I think the ratings were actually really good for Fox, so I think this is something that was really cool. And I don't know who thought of that reenacting that entrance from that last scene, but it definitely kind of like got the juices flowing for the game.
Focusing on the White Sox side first, of course, it was nice to see the power coming from those guys, as we talked about all year long. This team can hit home runs, but they hit them in spurts, and there's times that this team struggles offensively. But it was nice to see them come out of their shell last night. Of course, Eloy Jimenez with a big 3-run home run. Of course, Jose Abreu was the first player to hit a home run in regular season play in the state of Iowa in that first inning last night to get the Sox on the board and the game rolling. And Sebi Zavala, what a story he has been over the last month or so. Of course, Zach Collins, who was supposed to be the regular starting catcher, hasn't played in a while. Of course, the regular starting catcher, Yasmani Grandal, is currently on the injured list. And Sebi Zavala has been playing very well, and he hit a home run last night. So it was nice to see the power starting to come from these guys. And what's been the theme all year long, Lakina, for the White Sox is starting pitching, not getting hurt, and guys that are filling in for the guys that were hurt early in the year, doing their role, playing their part as well. And that's what you saw last night.
Yeah, I think I think for the psyche for the Sox, I mean, you're going to have that, ebbs and flows of the season. I think this will definitely help. And we'll see what happens in the rest of the weekend series, because I think there's going to be, they avoid Garrett Cole, which is, if you're the White Sox, I think, and you're a White Sox fan, I think you're feeling, pretty good that you get to miss Cole, but you have a pretty tough next couple of games with the Yankees. So hopefully if you can at least win the series, I think that can only help, with the psyche to kind of kick off that very tough stretch. You got Oakland Monday. Then after that, next Friday, you got to go at Tampa. Then you got to go at Toronto after that. So if you can at least win the series against the Yankees, this can only help sort of like the confidence and show that maybe you can beat these teams, because you probably got to face those teams as you get into the playoffs. So this can only help, the confidence for the White Sox.
Yeah, and I don't know if you paid attention to the comments from Tim Anderson. He was being interviewed by Tom Verducci from Fox last night. Nice hat from Mr. Verducci, by the way, going old school 20s and 30s, 1930s style. But Tim Anderson said it best. This team didn't quit, referring to the White Sox, and this was the first time the White Sox have beaten the Yankees all year. Of course, the Yankees swept the White Sox in Yankee Stadium back in early May. And Anderson talked about it. This team doesn't quit. You need to learn how to win games like this. Everything's not going to go your way, and you had to fight till the end. The Sox were rewarded last night, and you like to see the fight in these guys. And we've seen that all year. We talk about Tony La Russa. We talk about the bullpen, which struggled at times before the trade deadline. Outside the Liam Hendriks hiccup, the White Sox, I thought, played a good game last night. Now, they had that one error, which I didn't like, so the defense has to tighten up. But overall, I thought it was a good performance last night, and they overcame some obstacles to win that contest.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what you want if you're the White Sox. If you can prove that you can win these kind of games where this, a slugfest, and you give up a lead, but then you're able to come right back and sort of, win it and win the whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see especially with the schedule that I just mentioned, with all the tough games and series that they got coming up. Let's see how they measure up to sort of those top tier teams in the AL. So it's going to be a very interesting stretch for the White Sox, no doubt.
You're listening to Second City Sports Live, LIVE Live, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown, as we talk about the Chicago White Sox and the Field of Dreams game that took place last night in the state of Iowa. The White Sox coming out on top 9-8. Lakina, I have to ask you this question. Of course, Commissioner Rod Manfred before the game said that he's going to have another one of these games next year. It's clearly to see that the game of baseball was the winner last night. So MLB, 2 thumbs up. Great job. 2 thumbs up to Fox as well. I wanted to ask you, which teams will you think will be in the game next year? I have several. Well, I want to get your opinion for your opinion first.
Well, actually, they already kind of, I think David Ross, the manager for the Cubs, kind of spilled the tea. It's going to be Cubs and Cardinals from what I've heard. So it's not official yet, but that's sounds like that's going to be the game for next year. It's not going to equal the pageantry that we saw from last year because having the players come out from the cornfields and thankfully no one's claustrophobic because those cornfields they can be kind of like kind of like tight spaces at times, but it's not going to match any of that. But at the very least, can they? You don't want to end up like they do with the Winter Classic for hockey. You don't want it to be kind of like watered down. So maybe have have the game next year. Wait maybe a couple of years and maybe do it again. So that way you kind of have you won't ruin the newness of it and sort of you won't ruin like the feel of it. It'll be a lot more organic. So it's going to be hard to top what we saw last night.
I agree with you. It's going to be hard to top what happened last night because everything happened so magically. Of course, Kevin Costner coming out, as you mentioned, shaking players of each team, the starting lineup, and of course there was movie clips played throughout the broadcast. I know that's not going to happen again next year. Talking about Kevin Costner coming out, that's just not going to happen. But if it's true that you said that Cubs and Cardinals will be next year, that's not a great idea, and here's why. Because we know, and we'll get into the rest of the worst and best of MLB this past week later on this hour. But the Cubs are going to be in a rebuild. I know they sell; they're a big market team, and this kind of gets into my next point. They're a big market team, they're a worldwide team, and they deserve to play in this game, but not now because unless baseball knows something that we don't, this Cubs team is going to stink next year. Now, the Cardinals, they deserve to be in this game. I don't know, the Cubs Cardinals, that's too soon. You got to have the New York Mets up in there because they're no matter what anybody says outside of New York City, the Mets are just like the White Sox here in Chicago. They're this ball-headed stepchild to the big brother. You got to have the Philadelphia Phillies in there. You got to have the Boston Red Sox in there. You definitely got to have the Los Angeles Dodgers in there, whether people like them or not. Those teams I just mentioned, they got to have their chances first above Cubs Cardinals because Cubs Cardinals, yes, it's an historic rivalry, but they don't deserve to be ahead of Boston and the Los Angeles Dodgers. I would try to get one of those two teams in that game next year. Now, I heard someone locally here in Chicago say this morning that it should be like Thanksgiving Day, even though this is technically a White Sox home game, the White Sox should host whoever next year in Iowa to keep it as a yearly thing. Do you agree with that or not? Because I say it sounds like a good idea, but I'm not so sure that's going to be a great idea because technically it's a White Sox home game, and Mr. Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner, doesn't like money coming out of his pocket.
Well, I think for that reason, I don't think that's not gonna work. You're not gonna be able to sort of sell that to, Jerry Rice or the rest of the rest of the White Sox ownership because, like you said, they're gonna want that money, and they're not gonna want to have to, give up a home game. It's bad enough they had to give up a home game this time because of everything. So I don't think it's gonna happen. I think like I've been saying, do it every couple of years. Don't do it every year because you're gonna ruin the uniqueness of the game. I doubt you're going to get Kevin Costner take time out of his busy schedule to, do what he needs to do and, reenacting those scenes. It won't be as organic. So I would say maybe just wait another year, then do it next year. Because they were supposed to have done it last year, of course, with the pandemic, they couldn't do it. So, they did it this year. And I just think that it kind of like just ruins the newness of it and sort of the uniqueness of it. So just do it every couple of years. You don't want to water it down.
Yeah, do you guys agree with Lakina or not? You can post your comments on our Facebook page and right here on YouTube. Just search for Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, Sports Zone Chicago on our Facebook and YouTube pages. You will get your comments on if you agree with Lakina or not. Should it be every year, like yours truly says, or as Lakina says, it should be every couple years? I'll say this, Lakina, it should be every year, just like hockey does with the Winter Classic. Now, like I said just a few moments ago, you don't have to try out Kevin Costner out there every year. That's like you said, that's going to water it down. Just play the game and you'll be fine. And you're not going to have the players tried out into the outfield from the cornfield either. And that was a once in a lifetime thing, and which was special. But like you said, moments like they just cannot recreate every year. Those two parts will be watered down.
All the more reason to, I think, just if you want to keep the freshness of it, sort of the uniqueness of it, the newness of it, do it every couple of years because look what's happened with the Winter Classic in hockey. It's, we can kind of say it's sort of starting to water it down. So I would say, maybe do it every couple of years. That way you can kind of get, people, going. And then maybe, who knows, in a couple of years, the Cubs will be contending. we'll see what happens there. But I just want to kind of like just make sure that it all sort of like just keep the freshness of the newness of it.
Yeah, Armando Lara Jr., welcome to our
Hey,
show. Thank
Amanda!
you. He says every 2 years sounds good, so he's with you, Lakina. So you guys agree with Lakina, or do you agree with me? Just go to our Facebook page and our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Put your comments in there, and we'll get them on live.
Keep it clean and keep it at least, and at the very least, PG rated, folks. That's all we ask for the comment section.
Yes. Now, going back to my earlier point, if baseball is going to do this every year, if you said the Cubs Cardinals is going to be next year, I get the historic history behind that rivalry, but it's too soon because the Cubs are going to stink next year, and the Cardinals are always competitive, even though they're having a down year this year. Excuse me, but that matchup for that type of game is too soon. You got to have Boston in there. You got to have the Dodgers in there. You got to have Philadelphia in there. Eventually, you got to have the New York Mets up in there, and maybe the Houston Astros. For baseball, and people may disagree with me, and that's okay. You got to have your big market teams in there every year. I'm not saying Cubs Cardinals couldn't sell in the Field of Dreams game, but the way the Cubs are going, we'll get to them later. That it's too soon to have that matchup. I will find a way to get. I know the logical choice will be Boston and the Yankees in there. I think baseball continues this Field of Dreams series every year. Eventually, you'll have Yankees, Red Sox. I would have that first, then Cubs, Cardinals. But the Yankees will be there for the second year in a row. I don't think that's why it probably won't happen next year anyway with Boston and Yankees. But eventually, you'll get those two teams to battle in that game. But I would have tried to get the Dodgers in there for next year or Boston, because you're trying to sell this game to the casual fan, and that's a problem that baseball has right now.
Well, I mean, the White Sox, they're actually in first place. They're up about 11 games in the AL Central. So, and also to the Yankees are always going to sell. So I think that's sort of like, you kind of let down with that. We'll see what happens next year with the Cubs. The Cubs aren't at the very least turning the corner. Maybe you could say you're not going to get the big ratings. I mean, unfortunately, for the first time, the Cubs lost consecutive games by 10 plus runs for the fourth time in the modern era since 1900. They were outscored by 28 runs in the Brewers series. It's the worst ever run differential at Wrigley. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think you're hoping they can at least turn the corner at the very least, so that maybe you can sell that game. Maybe they will do, I don't know, Astros, Dodgers, maybe, if they want to do a, the interleague sort of style. But, it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, the Cardinals, Cubs, that's sort of like that's kind of like the rumors that's been spreading around. Like I said, Rossi spilled the tea a couple of days ago, so we'll see once that's official. Nothing's official yet, but let's move on to talk about, we talked about the Cubs already. Unfortunately, they're terrible. So I gave you the stats. So we'll spare you the minute, the time, and the minutes, talking about the Cubs, because they're not going to be very good. They're probably tanking. So who knows? But what impressed you so far this week in major leagues?
Shohei Ohtani, as we said before on our podcast, he's your hands down winner for the American League MVP. He did his thing last night. He improves his record to 7-1 with the 2.93 ERA as the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, if they're going to be called. Their record is at 58-58 on the season. They defeated the Toronto Blue Jays 6-3. Ohtani pitches 6 strong innings. Lakina, as we talked about with Ohtani, I know many people has called this guy a new generation Babe Ruth. This is probably the only thing that we'll get close to seeing Babe Ruth in our lifetime, Lakina, a Babe Ruth type player. He's amazing. I know he had Tommy John surgery a couple years ago. He was just relegated to hitting, but he's an amazing player. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the rest of his career. Now, on the flip side for Toronto, we talked about this before too. If you listen to our previous shows before the season started, I had Toronto over. I forgot who I had them over. I think I had them over Houston as your AL wildcard winner. So Toronto, this is a bigger story, a big loss for them last night. They're in the hunt for the AL wildcard race, but had the chance to perhaps sneak into the AL East race, which is probably not going to happen now. But they're still in the fight that last for that AL wildcard race, and there was a big loss for them last night.
Yeah, that was a tough one, and I saw that game last night. And look, like we said, I mean, pitching has been an issue for Toronto, and unfortunately, that's what killed them yesterday. But again, look, they're gonna, that bad loss to the Angels. I mean, thanks to Ohtani had something to do with that too. But and I think look, there's still a lot of time. There's still 2.5 back in that wild card spot. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's sort of unfortunate that maybe they're not ready. Maybe they'll be ready next year. But look, I think there's still a lot of fight in that Toronto team. So I think that they really are going to sort of make a case for their wild card spot. And I think that they're not done. I think they'll be fine. I mean, look, you still got about 7 weeks left in the season, so they can they still play the Rays and the Red Sox a lot during that stretch. They play the White Sox too, as we mentioned, next week. So they'll have their shot to kind of gain some ground. Now, I have to say, the AL East, the NL East, I should say, that whole, I think nobody wants to win the division. They're playing hot potato. The Phillies are in first place right now. They're up a half game on the Mets. The Mets have won a couple of games in a row. They're kind of trying to sneak back into it, winning, comeback win last night against the Nationals. The Braves are hanging on. They lost last night, but I don't think they'll be able to. I think not having Acuna Jr., I think that's really gonna, like I said before in our podcast, I mean, that's really what's gonna, kill them in the end. The Giants, they're not going away. They've won 5 in a row, so they're not gonna. It doesn't like they're gonna really go to that NL West. So that's probably I'm not gonna give it to them just yet, but it doesn't like they're gonna sink anytime soon. So you got to give props to them for that. But the Dodgers have had their struggles lately. They're still having some injury issues, and the Trevor Bauer situation doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. The Padres, it looks like they're sinking fast.
Fernando Tatis Jr. is supposed to come back tonight or tomorrow, I believe. So they need him badly. If he hurts their shoulder one more time, it's over for him.
Yeah, that's gonna be. Yeah, that's going to be sort of the thing. Okay, can they? Because they miss him terribly. If you look at that, their last couple of games. They're now 9 back in the NL West, so it looks like they may have to depend on the wild card. And it's a tough go for the wild card too. You're dealing with a lot of the Dodgers, the Padres. I mean, they're the top 2 right now, but then you've got the Reds are starting to kind of trying to make a go at it. Also, the Mets too. So. You're going to need Tatis Jr. back for that stretch. So to at least try to perhaps get an inkling in that NL West, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'll start it with the NL East first. The Philadelphia Phillies are like Joe Girardi, their manager personally. Chicago's very young, but I don't trust their bullpen. Their offense is sporadic, just like the White Sox, although the White Sox have deeper talent than the Phillies. I don't know if I could trust the Phillies to hang on. We talked about them on our podcast looking at last weekend. Zach Wheeler, who the White Sox were supposed to sign, but Wheeler chose Philadelphia at the last minute. He's been great for them all year. You have Aaron Nola, who's the other top pitcher over there, but I don't like their bullpen. And their offense is sporadic at times. It's just not consistent for me. Atlanta, if it wasn't for the injury to Ronald Acuna Jr., I would have them as the favorites. But they just, even though they're barely over 500 right now, I don't know if I could trust them at the end. The New York Mets, as we said before, the starting pitcher Jacob deGrom, as he goes, the Mets go. I know you got Big Panda over there and Pete Alonso, but it's just like the rest of the teams just cannot seem to get it going. And I know they got a big series with the Dodgers starting tonight. We'll give you the rest of the schedule and baseball for this weekend in just a moment. But they got a big series against the Dodgers. If they want to win the NL East and be serious contenders come playoff time, you got to beat a good playoff contending teams on your schedule.
Yeah, and that's sort of like you kind of benefited from that, small stress of not playing not very good teams. But again, we'll see. I mean, I look at the Phillies as sort of like, okay, do you trust, they've been kind of up and down too. Mm-hmm. They've got some injuries right now. They did salvage their series against the Dodgers, so that helps them a little bit, that 2-1 win last night. But, they faced the Reds this weekend. I don't. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I don't know who's gonna. I mean, I don't know who's gonna win the NL East. I don't know. I mean, you can, the like I said, the Mets seems like they don't want it. The Phillies seem like they don't want it. Braves are trying to get in there because it seems like they want it, but again, they may not have the firepower to get to the finish line. So I just don't know what to make of that NL East. I just don't.
Yeah, the NL West. I'll go back to there. I said the Giants win that division. I still have them as a wild card favorite. They're not going to go anywhere. So I think it's going to come down to the Dodgers and the Padres. Who's going to host that wild card game? Do I trust Cincinnati? No. Philadelphia? No. Anybody else outside of Atlanta? No. And so both those teams that I just mentioned with the Dodgers and the Padres, Padres is supposed to get back Fernando Tatis Jr. this weekend, and the Dodgers, Trevor Bauer is on extended leave again. If you're a smart person, you bet on him not pitching ever again this year, probably not in the foreseeable future. That's why they acquired Max Scherzer from the Washington Nationals at the trade deadline. He's been nothing but tremendous. I know he got the short end on the stick in that rain delay game on Tuesday, but he's been nothing but tremendous for the Dodgers. And Mookie Betts is injured again, so will he go back on the IL? It's going to be a fight to the finish. Who's going to stay the healthiest? Because as we said before, the Giants, whether they win the division or not, they're not going away.
Yeah, that seems like they're sort of like hanging on, and you got to give the Giants credit for it because, like we said in the podcast, Sid, nobody thought that the Giants would be contending. A lot of people thought they'd be selling in the trade deadline, but look at them; they're the top of the heap in the National League right now in the West. So we'll see. I mean, it should be interesting. And look, they play. I believe they still have to play the Dodgers multiple times. So you got to think that'll help. We'll see the positioning there, but should be a fun one. We all thought that maybe the Dodgers would, end up running away and hide in that division. Maybe the Padres would compete, but it seems like the Giants, now they're up 5 on the Dodgers and 9 on the Padres. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
Yep, and let's go to the AL East. Of course, you have Tampa Bay, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. Of course, Tampa and Boston are battling out right now. I know the White Sox played Tampa within a week and a half or so on the road. Tampa could give Boston a run for their money, but it's going to be a battle to the finish. If I had to pick right now, I'm going with Tampa Bay.
I think so too. I think Tampa Bay will do just enough to win the division. I don't trust the Red Sox. The Yankees, you don't know what you're going to get from them. Like I said, I don't think the Blue Jays are ready just yet, but again, I think the Rays, they know how to win. They got all the way to the World Series last year in the shortened season, so there's no reason, despite they've had some injury issues, but they're hanging on. And I think I think they could definitely be, make a go at it to sort of be like, I'm not gonna say they're the favorites in the AL, but I think they're definitely right there in the team photo.
Yeah, we know what's going on in the AL Central, and of course in the AL West, you have Houston in the lead, Oakland's behind them, and third place Seattle. It's going to come down to Houston and Oakland. As I tell White Sox fans now on our debut show here on Sports Zone Chicago, I'm worried about Oakland if they get in, if you're a White Sox fan. I know everybody wants to talk about Houston and perhaps maybe Boston, but I'm looking at Tampa Bay. I'm looking at Oakland too, as those two teams that could do damage to the White Sox come playoff time.
Well, I don't think if you're a White Sox fan, you don't want to see the Astros. I mean, Oakland, I should say. You don't want to see them either, but Oakland is sort of like been a thorn on the White Sox side. Of course, they knocked them out last year. So
they're on Monday coming to the South Side to play the Sox.
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting series there. So we'll see. I mean, look, I'm looking forward to that series, and that should be a fun series. And also, too, I mean, we'll see once we still got like weeks, to go before we get there, but it'll be interesting, no doubt.
It will be interesting. Lakina, let's take our first timeout since we hit the bottom of the hour. We'll be back on the flip side with more sports, more fun. We'll get into football. There's a full slate of games as preseason week number 1 gets underway, and we'll talk about the Chicago Bears. What do you expect from them tomorrow as they host the Miami Dolphins at Soldier Field at high noon? You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll be right back.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TIXBLITZ.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
Welcome back to Second City Sports live right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We apologize for those technical difficulties, but we still had to get our break in. If you want to join the show via the comment section, you could just go to our Facebook and YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago. Post your comments on the page, and we'll get your comments on the air for you and on the screen. Watch if you go, guys, watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Lakina, let's talk some football right now as our Chicago Bears will face Brian Flores' Miami Dolphins on the lakefront tomorrow at Soldier Field. You can watch that game live locally here in Chicago on Fox 32 at high noon. Besides Justin Fields, Lakina, who is expected to play, I don't know if he's going to start, but he is expected to play and play a lot. Besides Mr. Fields, what else are you looking forward to while you're watching tomorrow's Bears preseason debut?
Look, I think for me, when it comes to preseason, you watch like the first maybe like half a quarter and then just watch the rest of it because that's how it's going to end up, right? You may see Dalton for one series, but sorry about that, folks. But yeah, so yeah, you can see the promo code there.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, I was like still playing around with some of the stuff here, but I mean, I think that look, if you're a Bears fan, I think you definitely want to see what Justin Fields does. You want to see how the defense looks. Some of the other draft picks, you see how they look. I know we're hearing all this buzz about how great Justin Fields been doing. Throwing like they had 3 or 4 touchdowns against, they were scrimmaging against Miami a couple of days ago. Okay, let's wait and see him do this in the actual game. In a scrimmage, you're not going to show all your stuff, both offense and defensively. So you're not, like I would say, people need to kind of slow down. Everybody's been, already like putting up statues of Fields and such. But let's see what happens. I mean, look, we want to see how the defense look. I mean, like I said, we probably won't see like Khalil Mack that much. You won't see a lot of like the top tier guys. So I'm not worried about looking at what they're seeing right now. So I'm not gonna, just have this make it look good. I mean, look, we didn't have no preseason last year. You're gonna see the starters for a little bit. So I'm not like, oh my God, no, I'm not gonna do that. So look, if you guys want to watch the whole game, that's fine. But me, I'm just gonna take a little peek and see how, all the other, players look and just enjoy the game and just be happy that football's back.
Besides Mr. Fields, I'm looking forward to how the offensive line, whoever starts, can they pick up the schemes and how well will they work together? And I'm interested to see what's going on with the running game as well. Whoever's running the ball back there, I don't know how much starter David Montgomery is going to play, Damian Williams, and I don't know if those two will even play at all, but whoever's running in the backfield, I want to see if the Bears can establish a strong running game. And on the flip side for the defense, I want to see whoever's in there, can they generate enough pass rush? And also to see how that secondary, how they play, because we all know last year the secondary struggled, in particular Eddie Jackson. And so I'm looking forward to see what those two units do. And of course, going back to Mr. Fields, how well does he read the defense? If things break down, can he make a quick decision on the run? and how does he command the huddle? All these things are important for a franchise quarterback. So those are the three things I'm keeping my eyes on tomorrow.
I mean, like you said, Kyle Fuller's not there anymore. He was sort of like the one guy in the secondary that kind of kept things sort of from going completely off the rails for the Bears. Eddie Jackson, unfortunately, has not played very well the last few years. So he's kind of like going to be the guy on that secondary now. So I think he needs to kind of, get things going for him there. And like I said, I mean, it's going to be a very entertaining game. I mean, of course, like you say, on the Miami side, you're not going to see Tua very much. You're not going to see a lot of the defensive guys, David Howard, who just got his contract reworked. You're not going to see a lot of him. So, I think, like I've been saying, for a lot of these sort of preseason, like I said, these are for like guys that are kind of like near the borderline of making the roster. So you might see those leg round guys. You're probably going to see them probably more, especially when we get to the second half. So I'll watch a little bit of it, but I'm not going to be like totally invested in it, as I'll say. Unmute yourself, Sid.
Yeah, first rule in broadcasting: unmute yourself if you're muted. If you're doing it on the live stream. But for those of you that are listening and watching us on our Sports Zone Chicago Facebook and YouTube pages, well, what are you looking forward to in tomorrow's preseason contest between the Bears and Dolphins? Besides rookie quarterback Justin Fields, what are you looking forward to? Myself and Lakina just listed our keys to what we'll be looking for in tomorrow's game. What are you looking for? You can post it on our comments page on our Facebook page and our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago, we'll get your comments on the air. Lakina, as we talked about this before, I don't want to start our NFL preview segments on our preview shows, but I'm looking forward to what kind of game that Matt Nagy calls tomorrow as far as offensively is concerned, especially when Mr. Fields is in there. As I mentioned before, Matt Nagy is still on the hot seat as far as I'm concerned. This is a big year for the Bears. Even though Nagy has been in the playoffs 2 out of his first 3 years as the head of the Bears, things got ugly last year, and it was carried by this defense. He's been given a little sign of life along with GM Ryan Pace. But back to Nagy, I want to see how he calls the game tomorrow. It's clear to me that he likes Mr. Fields, and it's also clear to me that he has the tools that he wants to work with. So I want to see how all that unveils tomorrow. What kind of game plan that will Mr. Nagy have against this Dolphins defense?
Well, like I said before, I doubt you're going to see a lot. He's not going to show all of your tricks. You don't show all your tricks, especially in the preseason. So I doubt you're going to see much. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I want to see how he does. I want Fields to succeed, but again, I'm not gonna okay, we threw 4 touchdowns, going to lead us to 3 Super Bowls. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So let's keep, let's take baby steps. Let's get through the preseason first. And then if he does well, then fine. If he has your typical rookie preseason, okay, whatever. I'm not even gonna dwell on if we don't see anything right away. Now, Armando, thank you, Armando, for all the support so far. He says he wants to see the run game on offense and the nose tackle play on defense. You raise a really good point, Armando. That nose tackle position has sort of been kind of a hindrance for the Bears the last few years. So we'll see how they play, especially now that you got a new defensive coordinator now. So let's see how the scheme works. Can the defense actually look? Let's also remember the defense are all over 30 now for the most part. So I'm looking forward to seeing what are we, I doubt we're gonna, like I said, we're not gonna see much, but they want to see how this new scheme looks because so we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be very interesting though. I think that's another thing I'm looking forward to is the defense.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about the nose tackle play on defense because as we mentioned before, they struggled to, in terms of the Bears, they struggled to stop the run last year. Of course, Eddie Goldman was out due to COVID concerns, and I know he has it now, so obviously he was going to play tomorrow regardless of whether he was on the COVID list or not. But I want to see some of these young guys step up on defense. Can they rush the passer? Can they stop the run? Because the one thing that is the problem for this defense, you mentioned their age, is the lack of depth, especially on the defensive line. I know they run a 3-4, so you have more linebackers than down linemen. But I want to see how the Bears can generate pressure without blitzing, and can they have any sort of momentum in stopping the run.
Will they though? I think that's the thing. Like that's another thing that killed them last year was they weren't able to stop the run. So I want to see now you have a new scheme. Are they going to be able to do that? And let's also remember too, like we've been saying, Sid, they're over 30. How much do they have left? I know it came out that Akeem Hicks wants to finish his career in Chicago, but if you're the Bears, do you want to give Hicks a lot of money, especially the fact that he is 31 now and that he's had injury issues? I think you kind of want to, stand pat on that. But again, we'll see what happens with Goldman. I mean, he's not even back at practice yet. Like, so what's the story there? I mean, is it very serious with his COVID? Is it just, are they just sort of like waiting and seeing? And look, he hasn't played a game in over a year. So you gotta think it's gonna take guys like him a couple of games to kind of like get back into sort of like the rhythm of it, because not playing a 4-quarter football game, yes, practice you can get away with sort of like taking breaks and stuff, but you haven't played 4-quarter football in over a year. It's gonna show. So I want to see how how they look. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see him. He hasn't even been cleared to practice yet, so he and others, once we start doing our divisional previews, are in that same predicament. So we'll see what happens there.
Let's go back to the offense, Lakina. I'm sure that Allen Robinson will not play tomorrow. I know he's under a 1-year contract, the franchise tag. I know they picked up Marquise Goodwin off the scrap heap during the offseason. You still have Javon Wims. I know they traded Anthony Miller to the Houston Texans. But whoever starts at wide receiver tomorrow, who's going to step up to take that number 2 spot? Will it be Goodwin? Will it be Darnell Mooney? He had his moments last year. Or is it going to be somebody else we haven't heard of? I want to see how the play at the wide receiver position plays out tomorrow. It depends on who plays the longest at quarterback. We assume it's going to be Mr. Fields. So I want to see how Mr. Fields connects with these wide receivers, whoever is on the field tomorrow.
Well, and I think that's sort of the thing, right? I know Allen Robinson's very happy because he actually has a somewhat competent quarterback now. Yeah, I think he's feeling pretty good. But I mean, will Mooney be? You still got Riley Ridley, you got Damian Byrd. I mean, we don't know which Wims is questionable for the game, so we don't know what we're going to see there. And I mean, they have a lot of injuries in the offensive line right now. A lot of their guys are questionable, so we'll see if that's going to play a part for the game tomorrow. But I mean, I know A-Rod's happy. We'll see how Dalton looks. Like I said, we're probably going to see it for maybe like the first series, and that's it. But again, how Cohen, he's out, so he's still. We might not see him till like the beginning of the season, because of the surgery he had last year. But and also too, like you said, the defense. I mean, you're not going to see Smith. You're not going to see Trevathan. You're not going to see Mack too much. You're probably not going to see Bilal Mickels. So I want to see how guys like Travis Gibson, how does he do? How about Alec Olutri? Are we going to be seeing a lot of him? I know he's been playing lights out, but again, we don't know But again, we don't know. Robert Quinn. I mean, where. Anybody seen him? Has anybody seen him? I mean, come on. Does anybody
You're doing the Paul George thing. Where are you? Where are you?
Where are you? So yeah. So I'm like I said, I'm not expecting too much because you're not going to get a lot, but I want to see sort of like I guess guys are excited to see like having preseason games again.
Yeah, and shout out to Armando again. He says, I believe Mooney will step up. I hope so too, because he had his moments last year. Whether it was Nick Foles or Trubisky, he made some big plays, and hopefully he could do it again this year. Now, before we get to the rest of the NFL preseason schedule for this weekend, I want to go back to the defense, Lakina. I know Trufant was brought in as a free agent to replace Kyle Fuller, who we lost due to the salary cap. On the flip side, you had Jalen Johnson going into his second year out of the University of Utah. Of course, he missed the last 6-7 games last year with a shoulder injury. I doubt if he plays tomorrow, but I want to see how, like I brought up early in this segment, I want to see how this Bears secondary matches up. And I'm looking forward to watching Jalen Johnson this year. I thought he had a good rookie year until injuries crept up on him in the second half of the year. But I want to see how this Bears secondary responds, not just Eddie Jackson because he had a bad year last year. But I want to see how the rest of the secondary responds. The secondary is only as good as your pass rush. If the pass rush is not there, your secondary will be exposed, and it will be exposed in a hurry.
That's going to be sort of the thing, especially with Jalen Johnson. Injuries were an issue for him. He was at Utah. He actually was a 2-time Pac-12, all Pac-12. I think was All American as well, but also too was the injuries. He was sort of up and down. So I don't think we'll see him too much. DeAndre Houston Carson, they seem to really like him. I want to see how he looks. Deion Bush is another guy that they seem to like in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Can he kind of be like sort of like that secondary guy? But again, I mean, I'm not. Like I said, I think we're not going to see too much of this, the main guys. So we're going to see guys like Bush and Houston Carson and Ogletree and those guys. So I guess we'll be seeing a lot of them. So, and look, I think Mario Edwards Jr., I mean, he's probably going to be, we're going to see a lot of him too. So I kind of want to see how this defense looks. Like I said, a lot of those guys are over 30,
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of like, I know I keep harping on the age, but again, age, especially when it comes to defense, it's not a good thing. So I think we want to see how they look. And, like I said, we're not going to see those top guys, but I just want to see how the team kind of mesh, especially in the new system, because I feel like I don't think Nagy's going to show too much, like I said. So I'm looking forward to seeing football again. We're glad we're finally getting to see how, preseason football, since we didn't have any preseason games last year.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's going to be a whole lot more anticipation than ever because, like you mentioned, we didn't have any preseason last year because of the pandemic, and we're only going to see 3 preseason games for all these teams this year. So the anticipation is going to be high. But I expect to see many of these teams like not St. Louis, New Orleans, or perhaps the Los Angeles Rams and head coach John McVay. I'm sure they're still going to treat it as a country club. Many of your fans will hardly play or not play at all. They value the regular season is more important than getting ready during the preseason. So I think you're still going to see the same things. We're just going to have one less game for all these teams to do it. Now, running the scores from the preseason week 1 from last night, you have the New England Patriots defeating the Washington football team 22-13. And the battle of the state of Pennsylvania, you had Pittsburgh over Philadelphia 24-16. Your games for tonight, Tennessee Titans will take on the Atlanta Falcons. Julio Jones, I doubt if he's going to play. He's the new member of the Tennessee Titans now. That game's at 6 o'clock Chicago time. Buffalo will travel to Detroit to take on the Lions. They'll be on the NFL Network. That's at 6 o'clock Chicago time. And then HBO's Hard Knocks, Dallas Cowboys will travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. That's at 9 p.m. tonight, only on NFL Network. Lakina, are you looking forward to any of these games tonight? Well, or at least peep it in.
Well, I'll take a peek at all of them. I mean, the Tennessee, Atlanta. I'm sure Julio Jones is gonna have some big hugs, for his former teammates. That'll be an interesting one there, like we saw with Ron Rivera and Cam Newton last night as Washington played New England. Mm-hmm. Buffalo, Detroit. I mean, I'm not gonna, like I said, you're not gonna see Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs, or you're not gonna see a lot of those guys. So I'm not I might peek at it, but I'm not, it's not really going to be that urgent for me to watch. Dallas and Arizona, I mean, folks are already saying this could be like a potential playoff matchup. And also, so you got Dak Prescott still having issues with his elbow. I mean, people are still kind of worried. If you saw the first episode of Hard Knocks, some people are, they're seeing, I guess Dallas had to kind of put out a statement saying that, there's nothing could be concerned of, guys. Don't freak out too soon.
Yeah, and head coach Mike McCarthy, quote unquote, acting out of character. Some folks are upset about that, but
right, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, I might peek at that. Arizona Dallas came out. Tomorrow's games, of course. You got Denver and Minnesota. That should be an interesting one. Cleveland and Jacksonville. These are locally, so if you live in those areas, you'll probably get to peek. In some cases, you'll be able to see them on NFL Network as well. Cleveland and Jacksonville, New Orleans and Baltimore. The Battle of New York, the Jets and the Giants. Cincinnati and Tampa Bay, the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
We know this for sure. Brady won't play.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll be in street clothes, probably in a suite somewhere.
Yeah, I don't even think that he's played a preseason game in the last few years. So even before last year.
We talk about practice.
Exactly. Houston, that's how he feels about preseason too. Houston and
Yeah.
Green Bay, that's tomorrow night. Kansas City and San Francisco. We'll see a lot of Trey Lance in that game for San Fran. And no, you're not gonna see Patrick Mahomes too much for the Chiefs, just saying. Seattle and the
Nor
Las
should you.
No, and that's exactly. You got the Seahawks versus the Las Vegas Raiders. the battle of Los Angeles Sid just mentioned tomorrow night. That should be a fun one. The Chargers and the Rams should be an interesting one there.
Yeah, for SoFi Stadium, the first time that stadium will experience a full crowd.
Should be interesting. And also, last but not least, the lone Sunday game. We got Carolina and Indy. And it looks like, Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson will be back just in time for week 1. So a little bit of a celebration there. Some good news for Colts fans. They don't have to worry about having to look for a new QB. I mean, they already have they'll have Wentz there under center in week 1. So that's good news there. Also Nelson as well.
Yeah, so good news for Colts fans because week 1 you have the Seattle Seahawks at home, and if one or both of those guys are missing, it's going to be a long day. So we'll see what happens with the Colts. Shout out to Armando again. Father Time is undefeated. I don't know if he's talking about Brady or not, but it's a fact. And we're going to talk about another superstar coming up in our next half hour, which this person is going to have to face as well. And he's been firing back on social media. We'll let you know who that is. Our number 1 is in the books. Our number 2 is straight ahead. We're going to talk about the Chicago Bulls and what they've been doing this offseason and the rest of the NBA landscape via free agency. And we're going to have a special guest in the second half of our next hour. So thank you very much for tuning in to Second City Sports on our new home live on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Don't go anywhere. Our number 2 is straight ahead. We'll be right back.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who? I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of City Sports right here live, LIVE live on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakina McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. That's Apple, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you get your apps. Make sure you get that Sports Zone Chicago app. You can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. That's at Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're everywhere. Also, you can listen to the audio version of this podcast. Go to our good friends at WARR Media. That's WARR Media. They're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as well. Once again, that's at WARR Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well. So we're everywhere, folks. And if you want to join the show via Facebook, via YouTube, and you want to post a comment, you could do so. Just go to our Facebook and YouTube pages at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube and Facebook. Post your comments. Make sure they're clean and family friendly, whether you agree with us or not, and we'll post them right on the air. We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. Let's kick off hour number 2, Lakina, Second City Sports Live, as we talk about these hoops. Lakina, I'm not going to get into the Summer League because I haven't been watching, I'll be honest with you. But as we talked about in our last few episodes of our podcast, I like the moves that our Chicago Bulls have been making. Of course, they acquired DeMar DeRozan from the San Antonio Spurs. They had a sign and trade deal with Lonzo Ball. We'll talk about the nuances of that deal in just a moment. But they acquired him from the New Orleans Pelicans. They picked up Tony Bradley Jr. On the flip side, you lose Daniel Tice. I know he signed a free agent deal with the Houston Rockets, and he's going to do great things for them down there, even though he went for more money. But the Bulls, it looks like to me they're going to do some great things at the United Center come the fall for the 2021-22 season. And you got to give credit to Mark Eversley, the new GM, and the new president, Arturas Karnisovas. Of course, Zach LaVine won a gold medal, his first gold medal at the Summer Olympics in Tokyo about a week or so ago. So hopefully he picked up some things from the players that he played with, and Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard and some of those guys, and his division rivals and Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday from the Milwaukee Bucks. Hopefully he picked up some tips and some ideas from those guys and bring it to the Chicago Bulls. The one thing that the Chicago Bulls have been lacking over the years is a true superstar and a leader. Now with Zach LaVine, will he be that leader in the locker room? Now we know that he played great with some of those guys I just mentioned at the Olympics over a week or so ago, getting that gold medal. But who's going to be the leader in the locker room? Sometimes the leader in your locker room is not always the best player, but what kind of leadership qualities will Zach LaVine implement on this team? And number 2, will he have to, quote unquote, go out of character to get the guys going and to rally the troops? We shall see. But I kind of like what this Bulls roster is doing right now. Like I mentioned, the new management and AK and Mark Eversley, they're doing a great job. Let's not forget as well, they added Alex Caruso from the Los Angeles Lakers. That he inked a 4-year deal. So he's going to bring that defensive presence that this team so desperately needed, especially from the perimeter these last few years. So I like what they did there. And also, too, keep this in mind. Head coach Billy Donovan has parts now. And so we saw the way he coached last year during difficult circumstances. Let's see how he coaches now with some horses underneath him. And as myself, along with Lakina McGee, talked about in our last few episodes on our podcast, I like to see how the Bulls play up tempo now. You have a point guard in Lonzo Ball that he can get them ball up and down the floor. He can set the tempo. The Bulls can actually run a fast break. Just imagine us watching a game on television, or if you're lucky enough to be at the United Center. Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine on one side, and DeMar DeRozan on the other side. Lonzo Ball, 9 times out of 10, is going to make the right decision. He's going to throw a lob to Zach or to DeMar DeRozan. I'm not saying this Bulls team is going to be the new age coming of the LA Clippers from a decade ago with Blake Griffin and the rest of those guys and DeAndre Jordan. This is not going to be Lob City, Windy City style, but I'm liking the potential in that for next season. And as Lakina rejoins us now, Lakina, as informing our audience, we talked about this in our last couple of episodes on our podcast. I like this move for Lonzo Ball. Just imagine him on the break with DeMar DeRozan on one side and Zach LaVine on the other side. This could be Lob City Part 2.0 as the Bulls are filled with expectations for next season. But this Bulls team should be fun to watch come the fall.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. I might blink from time to time. Sorry about that, but yeah, I mean, look, these are some great new moves for the Bulls. I'm not, those meathead Bulls fans that say, "Hey, you know what? Hey, we're going to be the number 1 or 2 seed in the East." No, we're not. we're not going to do that. Look, as long as they stay away from the play-in game, if they stay away from the 6 to 8 seed, I think this team is capable of being the 4 seed or the 5 seed. I think. We'll see. They made all the moves official, as Sid just mentioned. So the Patrick Williams actually looked really good. I've watched a little bit of the summer league. The Bulls as a whole have not played well, but I like what I'm seeing from Patrick Williams. And
you're a better person than I am.
I peeked a little bit of it for the summer league, and like I said, there was no summer league last year, so I think that's probably why Williams' development kind of stalled, was because he didn't have that rep. So. That's why you have summer league for those top round picks, those younger players, guys are kind of like on the borderline to kind of come in and just, play and, get some reps in playing in a game like atmosphere. I mean, the crowds have been pretty good for the summer league over in Vegas. I'm looking forward to seeing what this team looks like. I mean, we've got a great coaching staff now led by Billy Donovan. We've got great, we got some great, a great starting lineup that he'll be able to kind of play around with. Of course, you got Alex Caruso. You're going to have Troy Brown Jr., among others. So, look, I'm looking like what I'm seeing. Plus, once Kobe White comes back from his surgery, it's going to be even better. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how this Bulls team looks. Like I said, they're not better than they're not better than Brooklyn. They're not better than Milwaukee. I wouldn't even say they're better than Philly. I know with some of the stuff that's been going on with Philly, I wouldn't even put them there. I think they could definitely play in between like the 4 to 6 seed, as long as they stay away from the play-in game. I know some folks are saying, "Well, we should be the top 3." No, you're not. You're not there yet. But but like I said, I mean, I'm if we can at least get to that 4 to 6 range, I think they're in pretty good shape. I think.
You're listening to Second City Sports live on Sports Zone Chicago. Good grief. I got Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown. If you want to make a comment about the Chicago Bulls, what do you think about the Bulls offseason moves as you see on our screen? For those of you watching us live on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago. I got to practice that all weekend.
Practice that.
Sports Zone Chicago, and on our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Just make your comments right there, and we'll post them right on the air. What do you think about the Bulls offseason moves? Do you think they are a top 4, top 5 team like ESPN NBA analyst Kendrick Perkins has been saying, or do you think they're just still treading water, or do you think they still have a move or two underneath their belt? Post your comments on our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago and on our Facebook page at Sports Zone Chicago. We'll get your comments up on the screen. Lakina, 2 more players that we need to discuss. And one of them you brought up a moment ago. That's Patrick Williams. I'm with Stacey King. He said this during their last regular season game last season. He wants to see improvement from Mr. Williams in terms of his offense. And I'm with him on that. We saw the potential last season. He has the defensive game. I know some people call him the baby claw, i.e. Kawhi Leonard. He's not there yet, but you can see some signs. So remember, folks, he's only 19 years old. He'll be 20 around this time next year. So I'm looking forward to Patrick Williams developing his offensive game. And you mentioned how he's been doing so far in summer league. Hopefully he can carry that over to next season. I want to see him develop his all-around game. I'm not expecting him to score 25 a game and be the man, because that's Zach LaVine's job. That's DeMar DeRozan's job to carry the bulk load in terms of scoring. But I want to see Patrick Williams improve, especially offensively. And let's not forget they drafted hometown rookie point guard Ayo Dosunmu. Now, should Kobe White not start the season because of his shoulder surgery this offseason, Ayo Dosunmu will become that much more important off the bench. He's still going to learn under the superstars in DeRozan and Lonzo Ball in terms of being a professional, being a point guard. But Ayo Dosunmu, as soon as he figures it out, he's going to be real good. But he could take his time because he doesn't have the pressure like Derrick Rose did when he was drafted many years ago.
Which is really good. But I think if you're Zach LaVine, you no longer have to worry about being that guy. You have other guys there. You have DeRozan, who's made some game-winning plays. You have, someone like Ball, who has improved a lot in the last couple of years. You got someone like Vucevic. You got someone like Patrick Williams, who is hungry to get better. So I think, look, if you're Zach, I think you're feeling pretty good right now with these moves. I mean, we'll see if more moves are going to be made. I think there is. I think, look, I think they're going to try to get rid of Lowry. I just feel like they've got some offers out there from Charlotte. I think Charlotte was a team. I think there are a couple other teams that are interested in Lowry. We'll see how that plays out. And also too, you got Felicia's gone. Yay! He's gonna be the ultimate fleece, if you will, as I call him. Like they're the fleece, $32 million away from the Bulls for 4 years, and D-Wade liked him, so they give him a $32 million contract for over the last 4 years. So now he's going to be playing overseas. And I think you don't have to worry about that contract. Denzel Valentine will probably end up coaching with his older brother, I should say, over at Loyola. So we don't have to worry about him anymore. So
at least he didn't give him a job.
Exactly. So I think things looking up for the Bulls. I know people are kind of like, they want to sort of, kind of bring up GarPax and things like that and all the other moves. And of course, being younger and more athletic, we end up signing D-Wade and Rondo, who are over 30. But look, I think that this is going to be a very interesting season for the Bulls. I mean, look, it's not going to be like top 3 seed. If you can at least get to the playoffs, we haven't been to the playoffs in the last few years, so I'm not worried. I'm not one of those Bulls fans like, oh, we got to get to at least like the semifinal, the Eastern Conference semifinals. I'm not going to do that. Let's just get to the playoffs first. Let's take baby steps.
Yeah, like we mentioned before, this is a step in the right direction for the Bulls. The ultimate goal is to win the championship, but you had to take baby steps first. Zach LaVine has not played in the playoff game ever in his career. I think this is going to be the year to do that. But as we said before in our podcast, looking at the last couple of weeks, as long as this team doesn't have any major setbacks, any major injuries, this team will make the playoffs. You just got to stay out of that 7th spot, because unfortunately that play-in tournament is coming back. Next year, even though we have a full 82 game schedule. Why they do that, I don't know. But
it's all about money.
But besides that, why are they doing it? But that's a whole nother issue for a whole nother time. But there's excitement around this Bulls team for the first time since the Derrick Rose era, and that's been some years. Okay. They're gonna have me go down there checking out a couple of games. So I'm excited about this Bulls season coming up. The new management promised us a new direction, a new day. So far, so good. We just got to see this team mesh together. It's going to take some time. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's going to take some time. As soon as this group figures it out, I think sky's the limit.
Well, also, too, we're going to have an actual off season. Remember, the last couple of years we haven't. So I think for people to kind of like, we're going to have practices. We're going to have an actual training camp. We're going to have preseason, a full slate of preseason games. I think this can only get, once they get Kobe White back, I think they'll get even better than that. So it's a good problem to have if you're Billy Donovan. Like I said, I know we know about this thing about the tampering and yada, 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 whatever. But I'm like, look, this is just, I just think it's just absurd. We talked about it the last couple of weeks with you guys. Do you really, if you're the NBA, do you really want to mess around with with the Bulls, with your number 3 market? Really?
No.
Even Miami, like Miami, like when they're good, like they bring in big ratings too. So let's don't mess around with it. They're just, to me, I think they're gonna get rid of the tampering rules and they are gonna enforce it because everybody does it. Everybody does it. In some
Everybody,
form.
tamper here, tamper there, tamper
Yeah,
everywhere.
everywhere tampered. So, like, come on, guys, stop it. NBA.
You're listening to Second City Sports on our new home right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee, Ice City Brown. I got that right finally. You can post your comments on our Facebook and YouTube pages at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago, you can post your comments on one of our pages. We'll get them right on the air for you. Make sure you keep them clean and keep them family friendly, whether you agree with us or not. Lakina, let's get to the rest of the NBA landscape. LeBron James, he let it rip on Twitter about a week or so ago. He had to take it down. Of course, he considers many members of the media as haters because of the age of the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, Russell Westbrook is a new addition. Of course, Carmelo Anthony's over there now. And the Lakers look good on paper, but I'm looking at the situation like his last 2 years in Cleveland, the second time before he jumped ship to the Lakers where he's at now. What did you think about this comments? Or should you take those comments seriously, or do you think it's just being a baby?
I wouldn't say he's being a baby, but I think they're valid because you got, I think, Carmelo's like the oldest player on that team, and just about about a third, I would say maybe a little over half their squad is over 30. So there is some valid concern. I think for me, you're not going to see everybody play the whole 82 games. You're only going to see maybe LeBron will probably maybe only play like 72 games, or maybe Carmelo's only going to play like 75, and Westbrook, he's sort of the younger guy of those two guys I mentioned. He might only play like maybe 76 or something like that. So you're not going to see everybody play a full slate, regular season games. So I just think that at this point, I think I can see both sides of it. I can see where LeBron's a little bit angry that a lot of media members are feel like they're calling the AARP team, who said the Lakers. So but the concerns are valid. But like I said, just keep doing what you're doing. You're not gonna please everybody. And it's basically, I'm not gonna say it's championship or bust, but I would say at least make it to the finals or bust.
Yeah, it's championship or bust for the Los Angeles Lakers. Of course, we mentioned the additions that they have already. Going to Russell Westbrook first. He's coming home to Los Angeles. He's from Compton, I believe. I know he went to UCLA only for 1 year. And so he's going to help the Lakers, but he doesn't have to do everything. He's Mr. Triple-Double. I know LeBron James can put up triple-double numbers as well, but if you're Russell Westbrook, him and LeBron can help feed off each other. Both of them don't have to carry the Lakers. They don't have to do everything, rebound, pass, steal, and set the tempo. Russell Westbrook will just ease in and play his game. Of course, we all know that he's not a great shooter, but he can still go get you a basket. And he's that dog that you need in terms of setting the tone in terms of attitude. So I think this is going to benefit each other. Russell Westbrook doesn't have to score 30 a night. That's Anthony Davis's job. To a lesser extent, that's LeBron's job to score 30 a night. Russell Westbrook, I think he'll have some moments here or there throughout the season, as you mentioned, if LeBron James struggles or if he takes a game or two off, same with Davis. But Russell Westbrook doesn't have to carry the Lakers now. Heaven forbid that Davis and or LeBron gets hurt like they did a year ago. Then you talk about Russell Westbrook going back to the old Westbrook like he did in OKC and last year with the Washington Wizards. But Russell Westbrook can ease into his role and not to take on the burden of carrying the whole team.
And I think that's a good problem to have, I think, because you don't depend on one guy all the time. Carmelo doesn't have to do a lot all the time. You have to, LeBron doesn't have to do much. You don't have to, the onus is probably going to be more or less on AD, I think Anthony Davis more than anything. But I think, Russell Westbrook will get his triple-double here every other game. As long as he's doing that, as long as they're winning, no one's going to care. And, we'll see what the important thing for me is going to be the supporting cast for the Lakers. About half those guys are some of those guys over 30 as well. And I think that's where the kind of concern is, people make fun of, the Lakers and, their ages and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. I mean, you got some pretty, a solid, supporting casting rule for the Lakers. That was their problem this past season. Unfortunately, because, a lot of their supporting cast just wasn't very good as a whole. So I think it's going to be very interesting though. So you still got Taylor Horton Tucker. He should be a nice a nice accepting more from him. Dwight Howard is back over there now, so he's not going to be dependent on too much. You got Wesley Matthews Jr. I mean, we'll see. I mean, you've got like this. Like I said, this is definitely kind of like I can see where someone would say they're the AARP team, but again, I mean, we'll see how much Trevor Ariza has left in the tank. You've got all these sort of like, I don't want to say older guys, but look, we'll see how Nunn looks. We'll see how Malik Monk. I mean, there's just so many like guys that they're all going to have to mesh together. So we'll see how they do it.
I know. Before we move on, I know that there's been talks around the Lakers circles that LeBron James fought hard to bring in Russell Westbrook. But do you think that Lakers management chose Westbrook over Buddy Hield? Because there was rumor has it that they were trying to work out a sign and trade with Dennis Schroeder to trade him to Sacramento to bring over Buddy Hield. The Lakers need shooters, but Russell Westbrook was the primary guy in. And this is what happens when you have LeBron James as the leader, the face of your franchise. You hand over controls to him. This is what happens.
Would Hield have been a better fit though for the Lakers?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think they needed shooters, like you said. And look, I think maybe Westbrook was more like settled for what LeBron wants to run. Maybe that's why the Hield Schroeder trade fell through. We'll probably never know the reasons for it, but I'm interested to see how they mesh well together. I mean, Hield, poor Buddy Hield. I mean, nobody. You think you're getting traded to maybe the Lakers, perhaps maybe play for a contender, and then something happens that falls through. It's just I don't. It'll be interesting to see how they all play well together. And like I said, I think age is going to be the issue here too. Like I said, you're not going to see all those top guys, all the guys I mentioned who are over 30. You're not going to see them play a full 82 game slate. You're just not going to do it. So
we have a couple minutes left before we take our bottom of the half-hour break, and we have a special guest join us to wrap up the show. But I want to ask you, Lakina, what other signings have caught your eye from around the association?
I think really the more interesting thing is that everyone's still trying to like make moves. We started this whole thing about getting the big money. Kawhi Leonard got his big money deal. Luka got his big money. Both as expected. And even the Bucks signed Giannis's another younger brother. There's like five.
How many does he have?
He has 4 younger brothers. I think he thinks the second was Thanasis. I think that's who they call him. But I mean, there's really like nothing. I really like the big the big thing here is that J.R. Smith wants, he's going back to college. Actually, he's going to college because he skipped college and went straight to the NBA at North Carolina A&T, and has petitioned to join their golf team.
Tiger Woods 3.0.
Yeah, they actually have. A&T actually have one of the top golf programs in the country, not just among HBCUs, among the entire country. And he actually does have eligibility since he didn't play basketball in college. So it's sort of totally random, but it's actually pretty cool at the same time.
Yeah, and shout out to J.R. Smith, giving back to the community, helping out the next generation. And this is not one of the best examples that I don't know what is. As you mentioned before, Lakina, he did not play a minute of college ball. He went straight to the NBA. So it's good for what these athletes are doing, not just for historical Black colleges, but in other areas as well. So 2 thumbs up to Mr. Smith.
And I will say though, Dennis Schroeder actually finally agreeing to a 1-year deal with the Celtics. That since he apparently was offered a 4-year deal, but then turned it down. Not a very smart decision there by Mr. Schroeder. It was bad that the Lakers didn't want him back, but then you turned down a multi-year. Was it worth like $50 million or 48, 50 million, somewhere in that range, and then you end up only getting a year deal for still not too bad. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, it's like he's gonna be poor. So if I can afford a house, so nothing like that. I mean, I think it's gonna be like at least about 6 million, a little over under 6 million. So he's still gonna get some money, but he could have gotten so much more. He did not play that well, but look, sometimes you learn sometimes you gotta learn the hard way sometimes.
Yeah, you definitely have to learn the hard way, and those are the facts of life. We're coming up to the bottom of the hour. We have to break. for these important messages. You're listening to Second City Sports live here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee, and I am Sydney Brown. After this break, we'll have our very special guest discussing last night's Field of Dreams game between the Chicago White Sox and the New York Yankees. And plus, we'll get into a whole lot more with our very special friend and guest. Keep it here on Sports Zone Chicago. You're listening to Second City Sports.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixBlitz?
Who?
TixBlitz. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixBlitz.com today. TixBlitz.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixBlitz.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixBlitz?
Who?
TixBlitz. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixBlitz.com today. TixBlitz.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixBlitz.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixBlitz?
Who?
TixBlitz. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixBlitz.com today. TixBlitz.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixBlitz.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixBlitz?
Who?
TixBlitz. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixBlitz.com today. TixBlitz.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixBlitz.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
Welcome back to Second City Sports live right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can listen to us every Monday and Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow us on our Facebook and YouTube pages. You want to make a comment about any of our topics, you can post them on our Facebook and YouTube pages. We'll get them on for you live. Lakina, as we wait hopefully for our special guest to join us, since we are less than a half hour away for closing out our debut episode here on Sports Zone Chicago. Alex Smith has officially joined ESPN as an NFL analyst. Of course, he was a former quarterback for the Washington football team. He played for the Kansas City Chiefs early in his career. He's going to appear on ESPN's various ESPN shows, including Monday Night Countdown. What are your thoughts on this?
He's only going to do it for a part-time. I guess they want to kind of like dip his toe into the broadcast realm and see how it works out. And we'll see if, hopefully he'll be doing it full-time. Look, he did a great job during the Super Bowl when he did that, guested with Colin Cowherd one of the few times where I've actually listened to Colin Cowherd. So, but yeah, I mean, I think like we'll be saying on the podcast, I think he's going to do a great job and he'll be a great asset. I think he's gonna, like I said, I think he's gonna end up doing it full time. So I have no doubt that he's gonna end up doing it full time. So this is sort of like a kind of like a feel out basis. I don't doubt he's gonna do a great job. We might see him call games and perhaps even do some studio work. What about you?
Yeah, I hope he does a great job. Of course, he played quarterback for his entire career, and players who play those types of positions that can see everything on the field, they'll bring some type of analysis, a different face to the game. What does the quarterback see? What does the quarterback anticipate? How do you read defenses? The question is, can you translate that to the common fan without dumbing it down? If you can simplify for the average fan at home to take in, that's good. And so I think the main thing is a couple of things. Can you translate football language to the common man, to the common fan, without dumbing it down? That's one of the things I like about Kenny Smith, the NBA analyst on TNT. He can explain it in a way that everybody can understand, whether you're 75, 15, 25, 45, or whatever. And that's what these former players need to take a lesson from Mr. Smith. You can explain it in your own way, but can you explain where everybody can understand? Because now not all these analysts can do that. And so hopefully Alex Smith can do that. Also, you're going to have to be critical of some of the guys that you played with or against. Can you do it without being personal about it? If you do those two things, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to be kind of like a question, right? I think you look at Tony Romo over at CBS. I mean, he kind of gives you that delicate balance. Of course, besides knowing what plays, to run and stuff, he can kind of be a little bit critical, but do it in a classy way, like without, being mean about it. I think there's no reason why Alex Smith can't do the same thing. I'm sure Robert Griffin III, RG3 will do the same thing when he starts his to the ESPN as well. So I think it's sort of like, if you can do it in a way, be critical without like being mean or being just, flat out like just rude about it, you'll be fine. I mean, the critiques, look, I'm sure he's not going to be afraid. I'm talking about Alex Smith, not going to be afraid to, do critiques of former teammates and opponents and stuff. But again, I think he's going to do it in a very like, mild manner, classy way.
Yeah, and that's the way that the analyst should be. Like I mentioned before, keeping it simple, but not stupid enough to insult the audience or insult the fan base. But make it simple for the common man, the common fan to understand. Because if you don't, there's going to be problems. But I think Alex Smith, just like anything that you do, like we're doing here, doing here on Sports Zone Chicago. I don't think that it's going to take some time with anything, but it's about repetition. The better you get at it, the greater you become.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what, like I said, I think that's probably what will end up happening with him, and we'll see. If he can maneuver that, and I have no doubt that he'll do just that. I think, like I say, he's very smart. He knows the game well, so. Look, I know it's sort of a feel-out basis, but I have no doubt he's going to end up doing it full time.
Yeah, and also Robert Griffin III will do some broadcasting as well I believe for ESPN. So I would like to see him and Alex Smith have a segment together, or those two plus Dan Orlovsky. I think that would be fun. Three quarterbacks, three quarterbacks that played the game. They know the ins and outs of it. I'd like to see those three have a podcast or a special segment on Sports Center or Countdown, or what have you. I think that would be interesting.
I have no doubt that the ESPN brass have approached them with that, sort of like having the three of them kind of like do kind of like a quarterback line, like breakdown with some of the college and pro QBs, since I'm sure both are very versatile in that. So I could see them, doing that little, I'm sure you're going to do something similar with Peyton and Eli once they do their thing for Monday Night Football. So I have no doubt that they're going to, especially, the guys you mentioned, Orlovsky, RG3 and Smith, they're all like under 40. So they're a little bit younger, so they can kind of like speak to what's happened recently in the game. So I think that'll be a pretty cool thing. They could have it on it could be a weekly segment on Countdown or on one of their college football telecasts and such. So I have no doubt that I'm sure the minds of ESPN minds are probably thinking that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's all about educating the football fan, educating the sports fan. Just make it simpler for fans to understand, and make it fun as well, and make it entertaining. Because if you can't do those things, people will tune you around to go somewhere else for their information.
Which is something that you don't want. I think fans want to see breakdowns of games out, to necessarily dumb it down, but also, have a delicate balance between football speak, if you will, and sort of like talking to us like we're grade schoolers, talk to us like we're adults. And I think that's going to be the thing that's going to separate all that.
Yeah. And like you just said, it all comes down to, can you separate yourself from the pack, and can you entertain as well as inform at the same time? Can you make it just fun, like we try to do here on Second City Sports? If you can't make it fun or interesting, then, like I said before, people are just going to tune you out, and they're going to go somewhere else for their information. They'll get somewhere else, because we have choices out here now. It's not just radio, TV, and whatever anymore. There's many outlets to get your information. So you just got to make it interesting and keep the fan interest at heart.
I think that's going to be the thing. I think if you want to get, grab those viewers, grab those football fans that actually like seeing like the nuts and bolts, the X's and O's of it, I think you're going to kind of grab the attention of that.
Yeah, you just got to grab the people's attention and keep them informed, and make the fan understand what the quarterback is going through, what the player is going through, what types of plays they're running. Well, what's the anticipation of those plays? Will it be a run? Will it be a pass? What's the different schemes? What's supposed to happen? What is not supposed to happen? Why did it happen? And things along that line. So keep the fan interested and engaged. That's the name of the game.
And I think that's what you want if you're a football fan, regardless. Since we're still waiting on our guests, what sort of caught your eye this week in the sporting realm?
Again, with baseball, going back to last night's Field of Dreams game between the White Sox and the New York Yankees. Of course, those are two of the premier teams in baseball. Of course, the White Sox are turning it around here in Chicago. The Yankees had their struggles as of late, but they've turned it around since the trade deadline. I think the way the game played last night, the game from start to finish was a classic finish. It was almost like watching a movie almost. Of course, the White Sox jump out on top first. The Yankees battle back. The Yankees come back and take the lead in the ninth inning. And of course, you get the dramatic home run from Tim Anderson, one of the fresh young faces in the game. And also, too, he's one of the few African Americans that are potential superstars in Major League Baseball. Of course, we talked about it on the show before. The Major League Baseball has had problems attracting fans of Black Americans and young people in general. So we now know what Tim Anderson has done in terms of his work on the field, but off the field in the city of Chicago and the South Side in particular. So he's drawn those fans in. if you're baseball with this game last night, hopefully you invited those casual fans to catch baseball and watch those top teams like the Yankees and the White Sox, who are not just up and coming, but they're one of the premier teams in the league. And let's be honest here, Lakina, baseball in the regular season is just like hockey. Is covered regionally until you get to the playoffs, and you get more eyeballs and ears to listen to your broadcast. So hopefully it attracted some new fans. And if the baseball decides to do this next year, continue to do it year by year or biannually, hopefully you can catch the more of the common fans who be more interested in watching your sport.
Well, I think also too, we've talked about it with having not as many African Americans playing baseball. And I think, look, I think promotion is the key. If you promote promote the game to African Americans, I think you can definitely make an impact. I think, seeing a guy like Tim Anderson doing as well as he's doing, being probably one of the faces of MLB, and look, MLB as a whole needs to do a better job of promoting their guys. I mean, all those years, you wasted Mike Trout because you didn't want to promote him. Here's your chance. Here's a guy that in Anderson that could be the face of your league, who's young, who can hit the ball, who talks the talk, and who backs it up. Why not try to kind of why can't he be one of the guys? And also too, he's African American too. Like African Americans like to see themselves, in a league like baseball. So, why not promote him more? Yeah,
like I said, Tim Anderson could be that face to promote baseball as far as the African American community is concerned, along with Mookie Betts. I know he's currently hurt playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers, but he won the World Series last year on one of the premier teams in baseball. And I just see the opening for baseball to do this, but I don't know if they're going to follow up on it. I hope they do, especially in the climate that we're in right now, but I don't know. Is it needed? Obviously, it's way overdue, but I don't know if they're going to do it yet. We'll just have to wait and see. Maybe if and should the Sox make the World Series this year, maybe they'll help it a little bit further. But baseball still has a lot of work to do.
Well, I think for the whole thing about, I think Curtis Granderson is involved with MLB in some capacity, so I think maybe he can help. I know Torrey Hunter is there as well, so maybe they can help sort of promote the game more to inner city kids, especially. And again, we'll see. I mean, I kind of feel like baseball. I don't want to say baseball's at a crossroad, especially now that we don't know if it's official yet. But I guess they're doing a promotion. I guess with Barstool. Unfortunately, they don't have a David Pironoy, who's their founder, has had some issues and has said some horrific things and hateful things. So those are probably not the guys you want to do business with. I'm just saying. So I'm kind of like, what? If you really want to, this isn't going to help your cause with people if you if you do business with an organization that's had a history of not doing and saying not so nice things and doing some not so good things.
Lakina, I'm gonna do an Alex Smith and RG3. Can we take a quick timeout? Hopefully, we'll have our guest, our very special guest, real quick to discuss last night's Field of Dreams game. You're listening to Second City Sports Live on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee. I am Cindy Brown. We'll be right back, hopefully with our special guest.
All right.
I just heard my favorite band is in town. I'd love to get good seats, but everywhere I've looked, the ticket sites have crazy service fees.
Haven't you heard of TixSplits?
Who?
TixSplits. They don't gouge you with crazy fees. The price they advertise is the price you pay, plus a small delivery fee.
Never pay service fees again. Go to TixSplits.com today. TixSplits.com. Guaranteed seats, low prices. That's TixSplits.com. Every ticket, every venue, everywhere.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, right here live on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We were supposed to have our special guest on, but due to technical difficulties, we'll have to reschedule our special guest for a future show down the road. Lakina, we were talking about how can Major League Baseball promote their African American stars like Tim Anderson of the White Sox and Mookie Betts of the Los Angeles Dodgers. As I mentioned before, they have a lot of work to do, and maybe if the Dodgers and the White Sox play in this year's World Series, they'll further promote that. But I know that the White Sox have done more than enough to promote Tim Anderson. He's on their promos for tickets and the Change the Game hashtag on social media. Of course, he had his own bobblehead dead earlier this year. I had the pleasure to have one of those bobbleheads. So the White Sox are doing their job. I just want Major League Baseball as a whole to do their job.
Well, and I think that's sort of like I just said. I mean, a couple of minutes ago, this has sort of been the problem with MLB the last few years, that they haven't been able to promote any of their players, no matter what the race of the players. So, I mean, having someone like Tim Anderson, especially since the White Sox are doing well right now, I think this is sort of the perfect opportunity to perhaps promote someone like have him be sort of one of your faces for the major leagues, because I think he's definitely the guy that can definitely sort of be that next face, if you will. So I think MLB as a whole needs to do a better job of promoting their guys, and it's not just the black players, it's like with all their players basically.
Yeah, and hopefully, too, you'll get some more of these big-name stars in the bigger markets, not just New York and Chicago and Boston and Philadelphia. You need stars in those markets, but those smaller markets as well, and you need those teams to start winning, like the Florida Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals teams, and those smaller market teams like Oakland, they compete every year in Houston. So, baseball, I don't know if you caught the comments from Frank Thomas this past week, and he talked about it as well. Believe he was on one of the shows on CBS Sports Radio. He mentioned that baseball needs to do a better job of promoting the stars. We see what happens in the NBA with basketball. Their stars are promoted, but they are promoted in the different aspects of entertainment within their realm. Let's be honest, the hip-hop culture has taken over the NBA over the last 20, 25 years or so. So the NBA knows their market, whether you like it or not. And you see these players appearing in charity events and music videos and movies and things along that line. So they're using other avenues to get people who are on the borderline to watch their product. As we had our good friend, Miss Rachel Kopchak from the House of Hockey podcast and Chicago's very own on our podcast recently. You can check it out at War Media right here on YouTube and on our podcast at War Anchor. I expressed my opinion to her that hockey needs to do a better job to promote their sport. Yes, you got the hardcore fan, but you need to go outside to attract more fans who are on the fringe of watch or having interest of watching your sport. Now, football doesn't have to do that as much, but the NBA has the blueprint of how to attract fans and new fans. And so baseball has to do the same thing. Hockey does as well.
Well, and I think the NFL really doesn't have to do it that much because it's already kind of natural, because you've got the guys. The guys are doing commercials. You see Mahomes doing commercials all the time. You just saw, the Subway commercial with Tom Brady and Steph Curry, among others, and that aired a lot during the Olympics. And I think, look, the promotion for baseball, I think there just needs to be they just need to do a better job, period. And like you said, hockey too. I mean, look, with ESPN and now Turner being the new home, I think there is going to be more emphasis on trying to promote the game, the NHL, to a younger audience and more casual fans, especially if the Rangers do well, if the Blackhawks, we'll talk about them in a little bit, do well. Yeah. So I think that, look, with baseball, I think, look, you've got people know who Mookie Betts is. People know who, some of the players there. You know who Aaron Judge is. You may know a little bit about Tim Anderson. You may not watch the White Sox very much. At least you know who he is. And so I just feel like, I think that the MLB, I think also the NHL too, to some extent, needs to kind of do a better job. I think the NBA probably does does a great job of promoting their respective, teams and players and such. And plus, I think the players do it themselves. The problem is that when in the MLB, you're kind of constricted, so you really don't know how you're going to be able to promote yourself. So as a whole, I mean, we'll see. I mean, but I think if the White Sox keep doing what they're doing, if they go far in the playoffs, I think if you're MLB, you gotta, especially if Tim Anderson is sort of the reason why the White Sox go far in the playoffs, you're not gonna have a choice but kind of make him your face, or one of your face at the very least.
Yeah, so like I said, we'll see what happens as the regular season comes to a close in the next month and a half or so. Hopefully, like I said, the White Sox, if they do well in the playoffs, it'll be bigger benefits, not just for that franchise, but for Tim Anderson, but for the front office of baseball to promote him and to promote other Black American superstars as well. Like I said before a few moments ago, Mookie Betts. Even though it's a shortened season, he was one of the, if not the face of the Dodgers team last year, winning that World Series. Hopefully, if Tim Anderson does the same thing for the White Sox, it will get more Black youth interested in baseball and get more youth coming to the game of baseball. As far as tickets are concerned, I know the White Sox as a whole has been doing very well in attendance this year. Before everything opened up back in late June, they had a capacity sellouts. And tomorrow's game against the Yankees, they have a day off today. Both the Sox and the Yankees have a day off today. There's a traveling here to Chicago to finish up the weekend series, which kicks off tomorrow and Sunday. I know tomorrow's game is sold out at Sox Park. I'll be going to the game on Sunday. So the tickets are affordable, especially in Sox Park. So if you're a fan, you want to go, in particular, the people that look like us of a Melanade descent, yeah, you have an opportunity to go. Like I said, tomorrow's game is sold out, but there's still some tickets available for Sunday's game. It starts at $12. So if you want to go see Tim Anderson, you can go. You know where to go get them. Go to the Sox team website. They'll direct you where to get your tickets. So hopefully what Tim Anderson did last night, this is not just for the White Sox, but for the interest of Black Americans that are on the fringe to get back into baseball, because it was not before basketball took over in the late 70s into the 80s looking that baseball was the number one sport in our community.
Well, and also football too. I mean, I don't want to say it's less expensive, and plus it's easier to get into the pro ranks. I don't want to say it that way, but if you get drafted in the major leagues, you probably have to go. Unless you're really, really good, then you have to go to triple A or double A or even single A, and it may take you a while to come up in the majors and the big show. So that's another reason why you probably don't see a lot of African American participation in baseball anymore. But like we've been saying, I mean, if you can get guys like Mookie Betts, guys like who has a couple of World Series rings, if you gotta have guys like Tim Anderson sort of help promote your sports, you can kind of turn the corner on that. But again, Major League Baseball has to do the work.
Yep. And Armando Lara Jr., who's been chiming in all day, thank you for your so much. Yeah, thank you so much for your support. Tell everybody to follow our show right here on Sports Zone Chicago every Monday and Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Chicago time. He said there's a program called RBI Baseball in major cities. Yes, including here in Chicago. Thank you for the information. We are aware of that, and I know it's been helping out some kids, but let's see if it helps them out a little bit more. And then he adds on to the comments saying that is run by the head coach of Morgan Park, Ernest Radcliffe. Yeah, shout out to him as well.
I have a young friend. We know his family pretty well. He's actually is a part of that. He's going to be going to Xavier of Louisiana, Xavier University of New Orleans, just outside New Orleans, and he's on a baseball scholarship. So yeah, and I think he is in that program. Armando alluded to. So yeah, and look, I mean, we need more programs like this throughout the country, not just outside the major cities. You also have African Americans that live outside the major cities as well. So maybe you'll tap into that market too.
Yes, Lakina, we're running out of time, and you brought it up a few moments ago. Of course, the Chicago Blackhawks are going through it in the other situations. We won't get into that here, but two heartbreaking stories this week. Since we have a couple of minutes left, we run up against it as we near the end of the show. But radio analyst Troy Murray is battling cancer right now. We hope he beats it. You get our support from right here at Second City Sports and all of us here on the staff at Sports Zone Chicago. Good luck with your treatment. I know you're gonna have a battle on your hands, but we're with you. Our well wishes and our positive vibes go to you and the entire Blackhawks organization. You're a great radio analyst along with John Weideman on WGN Radio here in Chicago. So good luck on your battle. I know you're going to go through. I know Eddie Olczyk went through it with his a few years ago, came out great on the other side. I expect Mr. Murray to do the same thing. And of course, Mr. Tony Esposito, the big old Tony O. Yeah, he passed away early this week at the age of 78 with his battle of pancreatic cancer. Of course, he was the goalie before we were born, Lakina. He played in the 70s. He was part of that Stanley Cup team in 1971, which lost to Montreal in Game 7 at Old Chicago Stadium. But he still posted up great numbers. He's a Hockey Hall of Famer. Of course, the Blackhawks brought him back as an ambassador about a decade and a half ago. Of course, you saw him at the parades in 2010, 2013, and 2015 as part of the organizations as the legends were brought back thanks to John McDonough and Rocky Wirtz, who's still the owner over there now. So peace and love to the Tony Esposito family on their loss. I never got a chance to interact with him. I never saw him play live, obviously, but I saw clips of him. He's one of the best goalies of all time. The Blackhawks organization brought him back before he passed away earlier this week. Shout out to the Blackhawks organization. But the Blackhawks, just a big condolences to the Blackhawks organization. They're really going through it right now.
Well, Tony O was the first goalie in AHL history to win 30 games in 7 consecutive seasons. Only since then, 5 others have joined him: Marty Brodeur, Ken Dryden, Mika Krupasoff, Ryan Miller, and Roberto Luongo. So a very small list there that Tony O started. And, Mikita and, Tony O, I mean, those were sort of like the cornerstones of those early Hawks, teams back in, the 60s and the early 70s, back when the Hawks were really good at competing for Stanley Cups. So it's been a tough, last few weeks for the Blackhawks. So
yeah, shout out to Armando once again, all up in the comments. He says, I saw Esposito play when I was a kid. He was special. You're one of the lucky few, Armando.
And you're aging yourself too, Armando. You're aging yourself, Armando.
Don't be ashamed.
Don't be ashamed though either. So we like that. So yeah, we didn't, but he was actually even better guy as he was a hockey player. Everybody says that their interactions with him were just one of the nicest guys in the league, and also too around the Blackhawks organization. So I thought the first go out to him and his family. That was tough to hear when the Blackhawks announced that news earlier this week.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for our debut episode of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakina McGee. I am Cindy Brown. You can catch us every Monday and every Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago live, LIVE live. We're not pre-recording anymore. Yes, live and in living color every Monday and Friday from noon to 2 p.m. That's 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. That's 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain time, 10 a.m. to noon West Coast time. For those of you in Hawaii, we love you, but you can figure out your time zone your damn selves. But you can.
It's like 10 a.m. there, I think.
Well, that's West Coast time. Hawaii, I believe, is like 2 or 3 hours behind West Coast.
It's like 8 a.m. I think it's like 8 a.m. I believe 8 to 10 a.m. Hawaii time. So
yeah, so there you go. You can Google it if you don't know what I'm talking about. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
And you follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG. You
can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube just by simply searching for Sports Zone Chicago. Search for Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Same way with our audio version of this podcast. Second City Sports, our audio version of the podcast at WAR Media. Once again, at WAR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WAR Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I think I got everything covered.
Yeah, I think you got that right. So yes, right. Armando, we'll see you Monday too, and we'll see you guys Monday. So yes. Tune in to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Like Sid said, on our Facebook and YouTube page. Don't be afraid to comment, on some of the stuff we were talking about it. Also, too, you can catch the episodes right here as well if you missed them live.
Yes.
Where the heck what happened to you guys? Come on now, what are you doing? What are we doing? But yeah, so for Sid, I'm Lakina. Stay safe out there, everyone, and be good to each other, and wear your mask and wash your hands. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you guys Monday.
Go Sox and Bears till Monday. Holla.